Okay, welcome to today's live Q&A. Is stress the reason you can't lose weight? Now, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Abby Manders. I'm a holistic nutrition coach, and I specialize in helping women heal from chronic stress. I host this community, the Exhausted to Energized community, so that us girls have a safe space to talk about stuff that keeps us awake at night. The never-ending to-do list that leaves us feeling exhausted. The constant battle to juggle it all. Because it's hard, isn't it? Trying to be a confident, powerful, sexy woman, a present, calm, caring mother, an attentive and supportive wife, friend, partner, and everything else in between. And that is what this community is here for. So today we're talking about stress, okay? And there is no doubt that stress plays a huge part in all of our lives. Non-stop phone notifications, family politics, or that small pandemic we're living through. Life today is non-stop. And of course, there is an unspoken expectation that we don't talk about, that us women need to succeed in every part of our lives without asking for help, which, by the way, is bollocks. The problem is, and you may not know this, stress isn't always something that you can just brush off. You know, it's not where we can just say, yeah, let's get a good night's sleep, or we'll just take a weekend break and, you know, we'll refresh ourselves and all will be well again. When our stress response is playing on repeat over and over again, like it is for so many of us, it can show up in our lives as irritability, mood swings, anxiety and overwhelm, insomnia, autoimmune conditions, hormonal challenges, skin problems. It can affect our relationship with food. It can prompt emotional eating patterns, poor digestion, IBS, gut health issues, poor immunity, so getting, you know, how often are you getting sick, and our propensity to store fat. So let's just start with a quick lesson on stress. Thousands of years ago, when our big worry was just survival, our stress response was triggered by our sympathetic nervous system, okay? So that's what happens today. It's the part that's responsible for, you may know it as fight or flight. And it helped us escape threats, such as woolly mammoths. It helped us survive floods and famines. Now, the stuff that happens in our body is pretty complex when our stress response is triggered, okay? And it happens in an instant, it's automatic. So you have no control over that part. You know, when you hear stories about someone like jumping out of the way of an oncoming car, you know, just like in a second, or they've got enough strength to lift a tree off someone's leg, that is all due to your amazing body's stress response. So when adrenaline, cortisol, and glucose are released into your bloodstream. And overall, it's pretty successful. Yeah, I mean, we are here, we have survived, right? But what happens when we're not fleeing a woolly mammoth and instead are staring at a never-ending, you know, massive to-do list? Or we're getting through a crazy work project with, you know, late nights working and deadlines looming and arsehole bosses, and, you know, or we're navigating the trials, the big trials of parenthood day in, day out. So even though modern day stressors aren't usually life-threatening, the body's response is still the same. We still feel our hearts pounding. We still enter a state of high alert. It's just less helpful when you're tackling, you know, a bursting inbox or a tricky family situation or family concerns. Okay, so we know what happens internally when our body perceives stress, but what does that actually mean for us? So first up, when our stress response is triggered, our sympathetic nervous system releases glucose into the bloodstream, okay, so that we have enough energy to fight or flee. However, given that most of us aren't fighting or fleeing, hopefully, we're usually sitting at a desk or, standing at the washing machine, piling endless loads in. Any glucose that doesn't get burned, because glucose is one type of fuel for our bodies, any excess gets stored as fat. It also means we get an energy crash, because when our blood sugar levels rise, what goes up must come down. And when we have that crash and we feel tired and lethargic, we often reach for more sugar, more carbs, because we need energy. Okay, but that isn't going to help with weight loss, is it? Now, cortisol, this is maybe one of the better known stress hormones. You may have recognized this. It's also our long-term stress hormone. So when your stress response is repeatedly triggered, as many of ours are today, cortisol tells your body that you are facing a long-term threat, like a flood or a famine. And it confirms that your stress response is indeed doing the right thing. It needs to be active. Your sympathetic nervous system needs to be active to keep you safe. So even if there are no signs of long-term danger, your body, your nervous system, this thing that looks after us in such a clever way, in an automatic way, still perceives it that way. Now, one of the things that cortisol does is it messes with your hunger hormones, okay, that help you know when you're full. This, along with a post-glucose crash, can result in, have you ever had that, I could eat my arm off hunger, that uncontrollable hunger? That could be to do with your cortisol levels. So after a long day, when you're, reaching for something to pull you out of the sugar crash, often you're looking for a lot of it because your body perceives a long-term threat. Cortisol also stimulates an irregular inflammatory response. It is responsible for regulating inflammation in the body. So very often I will have clients coming to see me with skin issues, maybe psoriasis or bloating, autoimmune conditions like Crohn's disease, all inflammatory based. And very often we don't link stress with these conditions. But I have seen time and time again in my practice that an overactive stress response is very often the root cause of many of these things. Now, something else cortisol does is it keeps us awake at night, okay? Cortisol should be high in the morning to help us wake up. But very often, our cortisol and melatonin levels, there's a cortisol and melatonin curve that help us sleep properly. When we're stressed, our cortisol levels, they're out of whack. They're not in sync the way they should be. And cortisol can keep you awake at night in a state of light sleep, just in case we have to fight or flee at a moment's notice. Really clever if a saber-toothed tiger might jump out at you at a moment's notice. Not so clever when you have an early morning business meeting or you need to get the kids to school and you're absolutely shattered. And what happens when you wake up tired? You reach for coffee, sugar, carbs throughout the day, maybe that lovely glass of wine at the end of it because you've made it through. This is completely normal, but it also is because you need the energy that you don't have because you haven't been sleeping well. And maybe that delicious healthy meal that you were planning to make goes out the window because you just want something quick and easy. We've all been there. And then you get irritable and anxious because you're not eating well. Yeah? The caffeine, the sugar, the overactive stress response has you wired. So have you ever had that feeling where you are so shattered, but you're so wired that you struggle to sleep? So on and on that cycle goes. Is that familiar to anyone? I would love to know if you feel you are in that cycle. Comment in below the video, whether you're watching it live or watching the replay, and let me know. Now, you remember I said that stress is triggered by your sympathetic nervous system, yeah? Well, the other part of your nervous system is kind of like the counteractive part, is your parasympathetic nervous system. And that's where we want to spend most of our time. When it's active, we're able to rest and digest. Okay, so it's the opposite of fight or flight. And sleep is the time when our bodies do just that. The parasympathetic nervous system comes into its own when we're sleeping. When we sleep, our body processes all of those nutrients that we've consumed through the day, and it gets them to work. It's when we eliminate waste from our brain. It's when our gut gets repaired. It's when our liver goes through its natural detox processes and more. So it's really important that we sleep for long enough and that we're getting good quality sleep. The other challenge that stress presents to our bodies today is with our digestion. So do you ever feel fidgety when you're stressed, like you just can't sit still? That's because your body is directing blood to your limbs. So when your stress response is triggered, blood is pushed towards your arms and legs so that you can fight or flee. But that also means that the blood is being diverted away from other vital organs, like your digestive system. Interestingly, it's also diverted away from your hormonal systems, from your sexual organs, from your skin, your hair, your nails. None of those need to be working properly when your life is in danger. But focusing on digestion, you don't need a well-digested meal when you're fighting neighboring villaging chief for your last remaining meal. Okay, and that is why bloating, constipation, diarrhea, IBS, and more are all linked to unmanaged stress levels. And because of all of these responses that in some respects are quite out of our control because they happen automatically, we can often enter a cycle of feeling completely exhausted, eating badly, feeling guilty about it. So we go on a diet, which, by the way, just confirms to every cell in your body that food is scarce, because what do you do when you diet? You eat less, right? So that weight stays on. Your body stores the fat to keep you safe. And then we end up having a really unhealthy relationship with food. So I want you to remember the stress response in its entirety, whilst it is incredibly helpful in the right situations, in modern day life and with many modern day stressors, it is geared towards fat storage. So it isn't your fault, okay? People often say to me, I just don't know why I can't lose weight. And it is so much more complicated than just eating the right foods and moving more, okay? Although those two things really help. Now, you're also probably always looking after other people, right? You don't have the energy or the mental space to figure out how to look after you. I hear this a lot. And I am here to tell you that you don't have to. It is okay to ask for help. In fact, you need to ask for help, because when you are holding space for so many other people, whether it's your husband, your kids, your team at work, who is holding the space for you? Who? Now, whilst you can't control that extra project your boss gives you, or hitting every red light on the way to an important meeting that you're already late for, there are plenty of things you can control that will stop these internal responses from going haywire, okay? So you can't necessarily take away the things that are stressing you out, but you can change how you respond to those stresses. And that really is what I teach during resets, okay? Part of it is feeding yourself well with nutrient-dense whole foods, okay, real foods. It is one of the best ways to keep your body nourished and feeling full through times of stress. It is not a coincidence that you feel better when you're eating loads of veggies and herbal teas versus fish and chips and Diet Coke, okay? Foods that are grown as nature intended, so real foods, won't spike your blood sugar levels the way processed foods do, because processed foods tend to have a lot less nutrients in them, meaning no 3 p.m. crash, no energy slump, real food. So what are we talking about? Fruits, veggies, lean meats and fish, plant-based proteins, whole grains, healthy fats. They also help regulate your hormones and they support a better night's sleep. So they can literally help you feel more rested, calmer, and put a stop to that dieting cycle that we talked about that very often leads to restricting foods that you actually love. And when you restrict foods that you love, it works for so long, it works for a little while, but then life happens, you get into a fight with someone, you get stressed, and you end up burying your face into the pile of donuts. Then you beat yourself up, you feel guilty, and on that cycle goes. So during Reset, which by the way starts on October 4th, we spend 5 days eating nourishing, home-cooked meals that literally give your body a break and make you feel amazing. They literally make you feel amazing. We eat foods that are easy to prepare so that you can manage that cooking, in your busy schedule, because the busyness isn't going to go away, but without the feeling of overwhelm. That is why I created Reset. Yeah, it is a 5-day program that makes healthy eating the easy option. It takes all of the thinking out of it for you. So part of what you get during Reset is a 5-day meal plan. Okay, I've done all of the thinking. You get all of the recipes, which will help you for the 5 days and beyond. And very often I find people enjoying the recipes for the 5 days, but they continue eating that way for a lot longer. I also provide you with a ready-to-print shopping list. Now, this might not sound like a lot, but I find that putting the shopping list process actually one of the most annoying parts. So having a list that you can literally either go onto your online shopping and start buying what you need, or hitting the shops and you're ready to go, it just makes your life for that week a hell of a lot easier. And that is what I want to do, okay? Because you having 5 days to support yourself with my support, with the support of an amazing group of women around you, can be pretty life-changing, actually. Okay? And I get it. I have been there myself. I have been there myself when I have been so exhausted and my eating habits have just gotten off track. And sometimes all we need is a helping hand. Okay? Now, during Reset, I email you every single day to help guide you through the program. I'm in the Facebook group. We have a private Facebook group every day. In fact, I'm in there at the moment answering questions and getting to know all the women who have already signed up. We have a group call before Reset starts so that you are super clear on exactly what to expect, so you feel comfortable going into it. And we have a group call at the end so you feel even more comfortable coming out of it. Now, the crux of Reset is that we eat nourishing whole foods, okay? No one goes hungry on my watch. Lots of people feel like these programs are about depriving yourself. No way. And for 5 days, we do give up some stuff, okay? We give up or reduce. Some people don't give up completely. Some people just reduce caffeine, sugar, alcohol, gluten, dairy, and red meat. Now, I know that might feel scary if you've never done it before. So even if you can just reduce these things, you still get huge benefits of feeling great. And because I give you a meal plan that even includes healthy snacks and treats, you literally don't feel like you're giving up anything. And you learn a new way of eating. And I won't lie, Reset isn't for everyone. It isn't. But if you are feeling stressed, if you feel like you are so busy that you have no time to look after yourself, if you experience bloating or poor sleep or stubborn weight that just won't shift, or any of the other symptoms that I mentioned throughout this live, I'm not promising that Reset can solve these for you. I mean, it is only 5 days, but they will give you a really good starting point. Now, we start on October the 4th, and I will share the link in the comments below if you would like to find out more or join us. We have an amazing group of women already signed up, And if you click on the link, you'll also get to hear from past resetters and what they have had to say about the program. So yes, stress can be the reason you're struggling to lose weight. It may not be the only reason, but hopefully this gives you a little more information that you didn't have before to make some decisions about your health. Because I know that you want to start taking charge of your health and your life instead of it taking charge of you. And maybe reset is the thing that can help you do that. See you next time.